We're so honored to have the next two special guests with us. Please welcome Jon Landau. And finally, Bruce Springsteen. All right, everyone. I want to start with, I heard that for many of you it was the first time seeing the film last night with an audience. Bruce, what was that like for you?
It's an out-of-body experience. I guess, when Scott first came and sat down with me, this was the movie that he told me he was going to make. And that's what he did, all the performances are so really wonderful, and
Warren Zane's wonderful book, Deliver Me From Nowhere. If you haven't read that, or his Tom Petty biography, I recommend it highly. Warren's a wonderful writer, and I think what he illuminated, the way he explained it to me was, in reading Bruce's great memoir, Born to Run, that the shortest chapter in the book was about the making of Nebraska. And I think that's what intrigued Warren. And then when Warren and I discussed my adapting it, I said, listen, this record was a part of my life long before your book. My father, who passed away the day before I started shooting this film, introduced me to Nebraska. And in a movie about a lot of things, fathers and sons being one of them, his spirit carried me through. And it took me back to understanding what a deeply personal and very specific time this was in Bruce's life. Bruce, who can speak to this much better than I, but at one of his lowest times. And it also was not a traditional biopic, as I mentioned to you at the opening, that I was interested in a man who's sitting alone in a bedroom with a 4-track recorder, facing this unresolved trauma and mental health illness that asks the questions that we all often ask when we're lost. We're facing the sort of issues that really no one else can understand. And I knew at that point, this was a film I had to make. And I said to myself, well, much like that scene where Jon Landau is in his office speaking to the record executive, I knew that, well, this is going to be a real commercial risk. So thank you, 20th Century.
Bruce, from what I understand, people have come to you many times to ask about making parts of your life into a movie. What made you say yes this time?
I don't know if they actually have. What brought this one along was I think, we had a very specific idea. Scott had a very specific idea, particularly of what we were going to attempt to do. And it was sort of, for lack of a better word, it was an anti-biopic. It's really not a biopic. It sort of just, it takes a couple of years out of my life when I was 31 and 32 and looks at them really closely at a time when I made this particular record and when I went through some just difficult places of my life, So, and I'm old and I don't give a fuck what I do now.
Bruce's life for so long, but isn't necessarily as in the spotlight. Did you feel any nerves about your story being told on film like this?
Well, I think that what we wanted from the film, what I wanted, and what I know Bruce wanted, and everybody here wanted, was something that was truthful and honest, and that's what we got. And I think for myself, my own particular apprehension about going from being generally behind the scenes, which has been my role, to being on the big screen, was alleviated by meeting Jeremy Strong. And I can only say about that if somebody's going to depict some part of your life on the screen, it's just an incredible honor to have somebody of this caliber devote this amount of time to what I felt, what I believe he got right. You know, so yes, there was apprehension, but there's been really tremendous satisfaction in what everybody on the stage created. The scenes between these two phenomenal actors, the two Jeremys, are so real in terms of, from my point of view, recollecting and having lived our relationship for 51 years. It's so effortless, so accurate, so on. It's, I've seen the film, I think, around 9 times. I will never get tired of it.
Well, Jeremy, I would love to hear about what you learned from the time you were able to spend with Bruce and Jon as you were preparing to take on these characters. What maybe surprised you or was revealed from that time?
Yeah, I was very lucky, you know, Bruce immediately was so accessible and honest and forthcoming. I mean, I remember the first time we met was in London at an empty Wembley. He was about to play a show, and he was still generous enough to have me and some friends backstage. And I asked him, kind of right off the bat, you know, why this period in your life, and then more specifically, what was going on with you, kind of at the county fair, you know, while you were driving with Leah, you know, to Los Angeles, and he was so immediately honest with a stranger at the time about sort of this incredibly dark period in his life, and then that remained. He was so available, so honest. I could call him at any time, text him at any time, and he was there. And I felt like he was holding my hand throughout the process, which was you know, valuable. So it was a daunting task, and to know Bruce was there supporting me.
But Jeremy also tolerated me.
No.
I appreciate that.
Even just sitting up here with these guys, it's overwhelming, and it's such a privilege. It's been such a privilege for us to get to serve their story. And I guess from the beginning, you know, I think Bruce wrote in Born to Run in the book the idea of how deeply you can inhabit your song. And I think our goal from the beginning was to inhabit this song as deeply as we possibly could, to be worthy of telling their story. And yeah, they were both so accessible and open and in mission control and just there for us whenever we needed them. So this really was a kind of team effort. And he's made us honorary members of the E Street Band, so
We're doing a concert right after this. Jeremy, from what I understand, when you are singing, when we are watching you sing, you are live singing in these performances, which is really incredible. Scott and Jeremy, can you talk about why you decided to do it that way and how challenging it was for you?
Yeah, I mean, when Scott and I were talking about the possibility of me doing this, I remember telling him, I don't know how to sing, and I know how to play the guitar, are you sure? Somebody else. And he was sure. And I trusted Scott, and it was a leap of faith. But I got together, I had 5-6 months to get ready, and I had a great team of people helping me get there. Eric Vitro, Dave Cobb, JD Simo. And yeah, we found it over time, and I remember I recorded the majority of the album of Nebraska in Nashville at RCA, and that was a breakthrough for me. I think I found a lot of confidence in those sessions, which was about a weekend, you know.
I'd actually forgotten that. It reminds me of a story from my very first film that I wrote and directed. That was another music film called Crazy Heart that starred Jeff Bridges. And when I met Jeff, I said, Jeff, this is my first film. I've never directed a high school play. I've never directed a commercial, and I certainly have not directed a feature film. He's like, really? I said, yes. He's like, then I'm in. But Jeremy had many qualities, an intensity, a vulnerability, and authenticity that I saw in Bruce's work, a lot of archival interviews with Bruce. But Jeremy has two things, and I mentioned this last night. Jeremy has two things that really, for me, make up Bruce Springsteen. And one is humility, and the other is swagger.
And that's half right.
And if I could just moderate for 1 second, I want to ask Jeremy Allen White because it looks easy to me, was it difficult to sing Born in the USA?
I'll tell you, yeah, quick story. I saw you guys later that night. Do you remember this? You guys had the Road Diary coming out. So I spent an afternoon singing Born in the USA, and I got a migraine, and I lost my voice, and I couldn't walk afterwards, and I didn't know how Bruce was still performing this song or ever performed this song. Never mind, 2.5, 3 hours more of music, and I saw Bruce that evening after I recorded the song. I said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "What'd you do today?" And I said, "Recorded Born in the USA." And he goes, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
I said, "You sound exactly like me. There's no problem here." But Jeremy was the only guy that when we talked about doing the picture, was the only guy I thought about playing the part because I'd seen him on there and I knew he had the complex inner life that the camera reads from him that was essential to playing that part, and that he's done such a wonderful job of. So
I wanted to talk specifically about the scene in which Bruce's dad asks him to sit on his knee, which is just like such an emotional moment as a viewer. And everyone I've talked to assumed that was not a real, true-to-life moment. But Bruce, do you want to clear?
What was the scene?
When
Oh yeah, I can hear a fucking thing. That happened. My pop came to a show. We were exactly where the film says that he was in Los Angeles, and I went backstage and he was sitting in that chair and he said, "Come sit on my lap." And I was like, exactly the words that Jeremy said are the words that I said. I said, "Dad, I'm 32 years old and I'm soaking wet." I don't. Said, "No, come on." So that scene is directly out of what happened.
But Scott, you must have thought, this is perfect for a movie, but feels like a movie, right?
Well, again, what a way to end a movie, right? A very commercial film. This reconciliation, two men on the lap. No, look, it's about Bruce Springsteen. I imagine people want I don't know, having Jeremy sing, I don't know, Dancing in the Dark or something. But this is the way that I felt was the best way to end the film. It's all leading to this summit. And, it's one of those rare occasions when it was a particularly fraught day for me for other reasons, but I'm watching that particular scene, and on paper, it probably can read for actors. You can tell me better. Is that awkward? Is that going to play? Is this going to be hokey in some way? And it clearly happened. But in watching Stephen Graham, who plays,
Also say Stephen Graham.
yes, he plays Bruce's father. And watching Jeremy play that with such restraint and beauty and love, what I found in many screenings, and actually that day on set, first I knew that I was capturing something that would be indelible in my career of movie making, but also how a version of that has happened on so many occasions in other people's lives, not having the relationship with their fathers or their mothers. And for me, I felt this may be a very universal moment for others.
Stephen's portrayal of Douglas, Bruce's dad, is so wonderful, but as I was watching the film again last night, I was reminded that it's both parents in this film that had this sort of back and forth, and the role of Adele, which is played by the actress Gabby Hoffman, it's so incredible. And to me, one of the greatest moments in her acting and in the acting of the young boy who plays the young Bruce in Scott's direction was the sequence during the montage where they dance with each other, the boy and Gabby. And to me, it's one of the most emotional and really heartbreaking scenes. And having balance between the mother's, Adele's unambiguous, unambivalent love, and all of the complexities that existed with Dad is what gives the film really unique psychological depth. It's just something I haven't seen before, And I would say, just one other thing, we were all talking about the contributions that everybody in different ways got to make, and which I think are just extraordinary, but the reality from my point of view, as I had a chance to watch everything, is that this is a Scott Kubrick movie. He envisioned it, he executed it, and he brought it home. And just one member of the audience here, myself, I love it.
That scene that that just mentioned, which is the scene that goes over Sam Cooke's last mile of the way, which is one of my favorite set pieces in the film, really came from Jeremy Strong phoning me up the night before the scene was going to be shot in the bedroom and asking me, what are the songs you play for one another, and what song would you play for somebody if you were trying to save their life? And I hung up. I was gone for a while, and I went right to Last Mile of the Way, and the next day they shot the scene, and it was just a testament to Jeremy Strong's insightfulness and his relentless going at it. I think we talked all night on the phone that night, But what happened the next day was that beautiful piece of music got into the film, and the scene was one of my very favorites in the film.
In the early days, John would go out to New Jersey and they would listen to music together, and it's of course a language, and it's of course where words can't go any further. And in that scene, I felt that there was something I wanted to be able to express to him that words were not sufficient, and so yeah, so I reached out to these guys and thought, what if I put on a song? And after a number of different ideas, that Bruce had that idea, and it's obviously such an emotionally huge song. But what I love about it is it's a testament to a director. We shot the scene as scripted. I asked props and sound to prepare the tape, beforehand. I didn't tell anybody. Hey Scott, do you mind if I just try something, in this next take? Sure. Jay, do you want to know what it's going to be? No, just go ahead. And that's the scene. That's what happens.
Scott Cooper was one of the most generous, undefensive collaborators I've ever seen in my life. I mean, any idea you had, any thought about a line, any tone about a particular scene, he was always there, just making it better, and better. And I got to watch the film with my 1 year younger sister, who is the little blonde girl in the film, but is actually a little brown, short-haired girl. But she sat there with me and we watched the film, and she held my hand. And at the end of it, she turns to me and says, "Isn't it wonderful we have this?" That's how I feel. I want to thank everybody.
We're going to wrap it up on a beautiful note. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks so much for everyone.